How would you describe change?
How would I describe change? I would describe change as inconvenient, sometimes shocking, negative, uncomfortable, difficult, challenging. You want me to be honest? It's horrible. It's unwelcome. Change is challenging. It's I don't like it. I often want to avoid it. It's bad, always bad. It's scary. Change is scary, very scary. But I will say this about change. Without it, I think we're dead. I mean, I don't know for sure, but it seems to me like everything that has life is constantly in a process of change. In the end, I will also say that my experience thus far in life has been that change usually works out.
What were your goals for 2020?
For 2020, it was going to be a banner year. It was going to be the best year. It was going to be filled with promise and hope, like all New Year's. Except in 2020, I was going to do a rebrand. I actually, in 2019, started that process with a new website, a new logo, and I got a makeover. I even did a vision board for 2020, and I hadn't done one of those in many years. I sat down in November of 2019 and I wrote out my goals on a piece of paper, and then I used like magazine graphics and pictures and things like that. But then everything, and I do mean everything, was canceled. Every single gig that I had on my calendar for 2020 was canceled, gone, kaput, no more. And at first I thought, oh, it's just gonna be the summer. We're just gonna lose the summer and we're gonna rebound in the fall. And then it just all unraveled like a sweater. It just went. All I could do when the pandemic hit and the quarantine, buttoned us all up in our homes, I just was glued to the TV. I was just like, what's happening? It was like every other minute was breaking news. As a entertainer who does large events, with people that have to sit next to each other, very difficult, because my 2020 was going to be filled with cheering crowds and people, and we were going to have awesome time of laughter together and then inspiration, to follow Jesus, and it was going to be great. But it just dwindled so quickly to 10. Okay, you can meet with 10 people now. Oh, okay. How am I going to do that? 2020 was disappointing to me for one big reason, that I've been working on this goal of launching the ministry for 10 years, a decade. And it's a long journey anyway, a long process. But it felt like we were almost there. So I felt like I was, almost there, and then boom, I didn't get to do it. It reminded me a lot of playing Candyland. When my boys were little, they used to love to play Candyland. And in Candyland, it takes forever to play that game. And the goal of the game is to get to the candy castle, and you have to pick cards. And depending on the cards that you pick, the board allows you to move forward or you move back. So you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, and so forth. And if you pull the cupcake card, you go to the beginning. You go back to the beginning. And that's really what COVID-19 felt like for me. Some people ask me, like, what did you do when you were quarantined? Did you clean and organize your house? And I was like, no, I didn't clean and organize my house, because you have to remember, I raised 5 boys, okay? No, I've not been one to be real organized. I was sort of just do good enough. Let's get to be good enough. Now, if somebody was coming over to my house, then yes, I'm going to be presentable. But before you come over, I got some questions. Like, are you coming in? Are you gonna be at the door? So do I just have to have, the stuff behind the door tidy, or are you coming in the door? And if you do come in, how far in? And if you come in, do you think you're gonna have to go to the bathroom while you're there? And if you go in the bathroom, are you the type that's gonna look in the medicine cabinet? Those kinds of things. And I had exactly 2 fans who reached out to me on social media and said, could you do some comedy online and we'll pay you, to make us laugh. And I was like, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a worldwide pandemic happening out there. I don't think I can be funny right now. I just really didn't think I could be. And the other thing that was going on for me during COVID was I had an injury. I had a rotator cuff injury that was so painful and needed surgery. My doctor said, yeah, you need surgery. But he also said, we can't do surgery because of COVID. So I decided to pray. I could control that. And I had already started a prayer page on Facebook, and it's called Tracy's Prayer Team, very unique name. I have invited many of you to join me because I believe that this is the time. If there was ever a time for prayer, this is it. And so before we get started with that, I thought I would share something funny. But I decided to go and broadcast live from that Facebook group every single day at 6:30 p.m. and just pray for 10 minutes about what was going on in the world, and pray for our country and pray for our world. And I used a prayer calendar that I had actually developed it with my ministry team in 2012. We developed a prayer calendar to pray over our ministry with scripture. I started out, I was just gonna do 30 days, let's just do it for 30 days from April 1st to May 1st, because that was when we were supposed to be, set free. We were gonna get out of COVID jail on May 1st, but that didn't happen. As you know, the shelter in place lasted a lot longer than that. In fact, it went all the way through May. And I decided just to keep going. I couldn't stop. And then, at the end of May, we had the George Floyd situation, and then we had another problem to deal with in our country. And so I just decided to continue, and I'm still doing it. But rather than focusing on the things that we cannot control, when we focus on what we can control, then we feel like we have more control. Makes sense. Something that inspired me 27 years ago when I was a young woman, and my mom was, she was 51 years old at the time. She actually was very ill. She had a terrible bone cancer, and she was on hospice care and dying at home. This was our last encounter with each other. She was a young woman of 51, that's pretty young to die. I was a young woman. I was 27. I was the mom of 2 at the time. I went on to have 3 more children. And when I went to see my mom, this was the last conscious experience and exchange that we had together. I walked through the door and I was scared to death. But my mom was so brave, and she didn't, like at a moment like that, a mother with their daughter or their son, she could say anything she wanted to. She knows she's dying, and she could have been like, why me? Why this? Why now? This is a big change. This is unexpected. This is scary. This is something I don't want. But here's what she chose to do. I walked through the door, and instead of being all like, why me? She was happy to see me because she wanted to sit down and play rummy. She wanted to play cards with me. My mom had lost so many things. So many things were taken away from her with cancer. And the last thing that she had was the ability to move her hands. And that's why she wanted to play rummy, so that she could do therapy with her hands. I mean, the inspiration in that story to me, for me as her daughter, of course, it reminds me, don't look at life through the lens of what you don't have. Look at life through the lens of what you do have. And in that moment, my mother had her hands, she had her daughter, she had a deck of cards. And so we played rummy. And on top of that, she was cheating. She was cheating. She wanted to win. So she was pulling cards. She had gone bald from the cancer treatments, and she had a scarf on her head, and she would pull cards out of her scarf to cheat, and she had me laughing. She made me laugh. We have got to keep the change. We've got to look at what about what's changed is a positive that we wouldn't have changed had it not been for the situation. And what about it can we control? Because there's no sense focusing on what we don't have and what we can't control. Better for us to focus on what we do have, and we have the Lord, and what we can control, we can come to Him, and He will strengthen us from here.